We are now live, episode 6 of Both Laugh, the Dying Scene Quarantine interview sessions, which should feature the lovely and talented Derek Zanetti, better known as the Homeless Gospel Choir. I'm really excited about this one. We'll give Derek a few minutes to request entry into our fun little chat, and then this is going to be a good one. I first met Derek, I'll tell you a little background. I first met Derek a year ago, almost exactly, when he was here in Boston. He was emceeing a whole bunch of activities for Frank Turner. Frank did his Lost Evenings thing here in Boston last year. And I finally got the chance to see Derek play as the Homeless Gospel Choir. Here comes Derek right now. Derek Zanetti. I get nervous every single time. Hey, there you are.
Put them up. Make sure you're drinking lots of water, y'all.
I'm drinking carbonated water with a smoking Coke.
I got the same as you, but we just had some Target curbside pickup. They got the best flavored grapefruit out. It's the best.
This is apple and ginger flavored, but it's made by Coca-Cola, so I'm not really jazzed about that.
That's great. How you doing, bud? You doing all right?
I'm well. How are you? I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I had a full day of it today. We did some anarcho DIY insider trading among me and my friend Matt. He's an electrician, and I needed some electrical work done at the house. And I had an old moped, and he's in the market for a moped. So we just did a little presto changeo. Here you go. Now I have lights in the back of the house. And I have a new ceiling fan in the living room, and Matt's got a new moped to give his neighbors hell with. So
That's awesome.
We all won on that one.
That's awesome. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying before you joined up, I think the only time that we've met in person was almost exactly a year ago when you were here in Boston for Frank Turner's Lost Evenings thing. And you played a show with my good friends in Rebuilder, like a year ago yesterday, and it was one of my favorite shows that I've been to in a long time. That was a lot of fun, and it was one of those shows that, and finally getting to see you live was one of those like life-affirming things, like reminds you why you got into punk rock in the first place, and just a crowd of people and you and a microphone in the middle of the floor singing your heart out, and everybody kind of collectively singing their hearts out. And I think you opened with Normal, and I said, you know what, this is my new favorite thing right now. This is my new favorite.
I love Boston, man. I had such a good time there. I slept on Sal's couch that whole week that Frank Turner had me up there. And
really,
the very last night, John Snodgrass and I slept on his couch because we were going to Buffalo the next day for a show. And my math and Snodgrass's math didn't match up. He said, we could be to Buffalo in 4.5 hours. And I was like, Snod. That's a 7+ hour trip, and that's if we pee fast. And he was like, yeah, we can make it in 5 if we hustle. And so we wound up staying at Sal's that night, and we head to Buffalo the next day.
Sal's one of my favorite people. I feel really lucky, and it's Sal's birthday. I don't know if he's watching right now. But...
Yeah, I know. I'm going right after I'm done talking to you. I'm going on to the Biz channel, and I'm going to do, he wants to ask me about DIY screen printing. So I'm going to do a little tutorial or something about screen printing, I think.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that because right when we're done, I'm going to go watch Sal's birthday bash. So, because I was hoping to be there if it was going to be at Charlie's, but it's not. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, man.
So thanks for coming on to my dopey little talk show.
I love it. I love what y'all are up to. I love all the articles and the journalism, and I think it's super sick that y'all dedicated yourself to the subculture and underground music, and to being vocal for small bands. I think it's super fucking important, and I really value the service that you all provide to punk rock. I fucking love your site. I love your content. I think it's sick.
Thank you. I like hearing that. It's been a bummer. The site's been down for construction for an unfortunate length of time, so it's been tough to actually do the stuff we like to do and promote the stuff we like to promote. But thankfully, because of quarantine, it allowed me the opportunity to do this. So
Yeah. And it
yeah, it's been
makes it
cool.
spicy. You're not doing the same old dog and pony trick. You know what I mean?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Got to do something different. It's really forced me to be creative in a different way. And I mean, look at you too. Doing something you wouldn't typically do, force you to do something new. It's really cool.
Yeah, I've done a couple hundred interviews, but just over the phone and in person and stuff. But then I can pretend I'm a writer. I can put it all down into a story. I can edit. This kind of forces you to be like Conan, like a talk show host.
Sure, yeah. And it's fun
Nice
too.
shirt nice shirt by the way. Speaking of John Snodgrass,
It's
that's
my
awesome.
gardening shirt. It's light in color. It's yellow and white. And I'm a hefty one, so I get real sweaty in the summer. And most of my punk t-shirts are all black. So this is my
Yeah,
one
yeah.
shirt that's light in color that I can go to the
Right.
garden with and not die of heat exhaustion.
Because it's a baseball shirt, right? It's right. Snodgrass knows what's up, and I wore my Pittsburgh shirt in your honor today.
Thank
I
you.
grew up a Pirates fan, oddly enough, even though I grew up in New Hampshire.
All
I grew
right.
up a Pirates fan. So
How
kindred.
old are you?
I turned 40 last year. So
You were there
like
right for the sweet spot, just like me. We had Bobby
so
Bonilla and Barry Bonds and Andy Van Slyke, and we had a real, and from like 88 to 92, we had a stacked squad in Pittsburgh for a grip.
so I grew up in Nashua, New Hampshire, which for 2 years had the Pittsburgh Pirates double A team right down the street from my house. 83 and 84, I think. So Bobby Bonilla, Mike Lavalier, Chico Leand, Bip Roberts, guys like that all came through Nashua. And so Bobby Bonilla was my favorite player up until he retired, because when I was like 4, I saw him hit a home run that I'm pretty convinced went like 800 feet into the trees, because I was 4, so I'm pretty sure. So from that point on, favorite baseball player ever. Followed him anywhere he went. It was irrational.
Fun little tidbit. Nashua, New Hampshire is on a list of towns that I've played the most in my life.
Where did you play in Nashua, New Hampshire?
I used to play at a place called the Riverwalk Cafe.
Yeah.
They used to have, they would clear out all the tables and they would do DIY shows, and they would just have somebody with a bucket and you paid $10. And once 100 people showed up, they cut the door off and sent everybody else home. And that was just the gig. Only 100 people came. It was a $10 show. They'd give the whole door to the bands and tell them to split it. And that's what we would do for shows. My friend Jed Crook, who plays like acoustic folk music, would always throw us shows there. Mark Gilday Jr. too. It was sick.
I never went there. Never set foot in there. I moved out of Nashua when I went to college, so I grew up there. The Riverwalk Cafe wasn't a thing, and I think I talked to Daniel from Rebuilder about this a while ago, because he grew up in Manchester, which was like 20 minutes away from me, but they actually had venues sort of up there. We didn't have anything in Nashua. It's a town of 85,000 people. We didn't have anything for shows when I was growing up there. So I went to maybe 1 or 2 shows as an adult. There was a place called the Thirsty Turtle, which was a restaurant, sort of Mexican bar thing, which was pretty cool. Like Brian McPherson played there, and
Sure.
But that was about it. I never went to shows in my own hometown.
There was also a little town up there called Keene, New Hampshire, a little college town that used to have Get Better Records actually started in Keene, New Hampshire. And they would have Get Better Fest, and we would go up there and would play at this little teeny DIY venue called the Starving Artist. And,
that I actually know.
Oh, cool. Sick.
Yeah, so we used to go to Keene. My family has a little cottage on a little lake just near Keene. So we used to go to Keene every summer. So I actually probably know as much about the Keene community as I do about the Nashua community. But I think that Alex from Get Better Records, I want to say he used to write for Dying Scene like way back when he was a kid. And then he went to Philly, and I kind of lost track of him in more recent years. But yeah, I remember there was a time where he asked if I could pick him up, I think, from Logan Airport and drive him to Keene once. But then he found another ride. But yeah, I love that town. Keene's a great town.
I liked it too. I had a lot of great memories. I remember one time we were in Keene and we had a day off, and we we got super duper high and we watched Life of Pi in the movie theater that was in the
Yeah,
town square, but the old rinkety, like
yeah.
2-room theater that they had down there. And we were super stoned, like 2 and 11. And we watched Life of Pi. And I was like, what does even life mean, y'all? Like, I was getting super deep on that outside square by where the subway is. And I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
if we do something or if we don't do something, what does it even matter? And I don't know. It was funny.
Keene's that kind of place.
It is.
Keene's that kind of place. So one of the reasons, I mean, I normally like to do interviews with people in the couple weeks before an album comes out, but obviously our site crashed, and so that wasn't really a possibility. So this is a little post-dated, but congratulations on the new album. It's really good.
Thanks a billion.
It hit at the right time, and obviously you didn't plan it to come out in the middle of a pandemic.
No.
but it hit at the right time.
I couldn't wait anymore. There was a brief talk about, like, what if we put it out once, later? And I was like, well, when is later? And, we made this agreement. We decided together that this is when we were going to do it. People are locked in their homes with no new music. I think, like, the greatest service that we could do to the people who support our band and our music is to give them something to listen to when they're fucking hung up in their house for Christ knows how much longer,
Right.
So we did, and it went really good. We're very thankful and humbled by the response. And AF Records did a hell of a job. Hassel Records did a hell of a job. All the folks who came along board with PR and everything. I mean, everybody just did great. And even with all the hurdles and selling out of variants and all that kind of stuff, like, everybody's been just absolutely the best. AF Records, all day, every day, forever and ever, amen. I think they're the best record label in America. I'll say it 1,000 times over.
They did a killer job. I mean, they always do a killer job, but they really did a killer job with your album. It came out super awesome.
Thanks.
And I know, I understand and respect why people would push back their albums, but I'm glad that you did, and I'm really glad when people don't, because you're exactly right. If none of us are going anywhere for a while, we need something.
Yeah. I mean, it's a punk rock record about now. And punk rock's supposed to be about right now. It's supposed to be immediate. Right. And it's supposed to be about what's happening in the world right this very second. And, like, what was happening in the world right this very second when we wrote that record just happened to hit the tipping point once we put it out. And it just happened to fall in our lap that way. And, like, It's sick.
And you wrote this one for the first time really as a full band, as a punk rock band record.
Well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I think you know where we're going.
Matt Miller and I, from Endless Mike and the Beagle Club and Wingnut Dishwashers Union, we wrote the record. I was on tour with Frank Turner in Europe with the Arkells, and the Arkells were coming on stage every night to play the end of my set with me, so we'd have, like, a seamless transition from the acoustic set into the Arkell set. And we came up and we played Normal together, and it was fucking loud and it was awesome. And while I was on tour, I just called Matt up and I was like, I don't think I can do this acoustic thing anymore. I think I'm over it. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I just, if I have to play one more time, I think I'm gonna rupture. So I said, I want to come home and I want to write a weird punk rock record. I have these thoughts in my mind. I'm hearing these really weird sounds, and I was explaining to him the thing that I wanted to make. And whenever I came home, we were taking trips back and forth between Pittsburgh and Harrisburg he takes the Greyhound, but I like the Amtrak. Because I gotta have a cafe. I gotta have to get to the cafe. I'm a little brat, I know. And we would take the Amtrak from Harrisburg to Pittsburgh, every other weekend for a number of months. And we wrote this record together, and we stayed within the confines of the ideas that we set out to do. And, like, it was the first time. I mean, I've wrote songs with Chris Number 2 in the past, but this is the first time, like, I ever went in and just, like, massaged it and worked it and, like, wanted to really come out to get the idea to be the way that I wanted it to be. And it was just great to do that with Matt. It was super sick. And Megan came to record. She wasn't a part of the writing process, but she recorded on the record.
Was it hard to write that way, to sort of give part of that over to somebody else?
I couldn't make it on. I couldn't write anymore the way that I was. I had like my father passed away right whenever I was on that Frank Turner tour, and it was difficult for everybody but me. And I know that probably sounds absolutely terrible to say, but like I didn't have any feelings about it. My dad and I weren't very close, and I mean I was sad that my family was sad, but I sat there for, I mean, Christ, for months, and I tried to write like slow, sad country songs about Hank Williams and you know, just the saddest things you can imagine. And I couldn't muster anything sad, but I couldn't get anything sad out. And everything that I was hearing was super chaotic and loud with like fucking feedback and loud guitars. And, you know, it sounded like the Pixies, but louder and backwards. Like just absolutely just tons of amps and tons of feedback. And I couldn't write anything outside of that. So like, I knew if I wanted to make something that was congruent to the thing that was inside my mind, I had to have Matt come in and like take a hold of it with me. And I'm really glad that that happened.
But it also takes a special partner, for lack of a better word, to actually be able to bring what's in here to fruition when he's not the one who has it bouncing around in his brain. You know, so to be able to trust another person that way in the collaborative process, that's got to be hard.
I can only talk in like feeling. I can play the guitar in the way that I can do it, and then I can just explain, I want this part to feel like a mixture between the tone of a Pavement record and Since You've Been Gone by Kelly Clarkson. So if you can figure out how I can get that over-the-top pop sensibility, but have it sound fucking crusty like Pavement, that's what I want. And that's like, oh, you mean like this? And like fucking kills it. And I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted it. You know, that's exactly the way that I'm thinking. And like, we've just been doing it for, you know, we were just going back and forth, that we just learned like a language of our own. And I like writing songs that way. And I'm glad to do it. Yeah, it was sick.
So to back up, you said the Arkells would finish out your set on the Frank Turner show and then go into theirs. So did you had to teach them a bunch of your songs?
Just
or a couple of your songs? Oh, okay.
I would play it because I got like 25 minutes. I was the opener. Okay. And it was the first time I'd ever done like one of those big, like, I'd never done a stadium style tour before where there were thousands and thousands of people. And I was the first one. It was super weird. It was super, I mean, it was great. I loved it. But it was also like, I felt like a fish out of water sometimes because it's just me and then an ocean of people waiting to see Frank Turner. And even though they were nice and receptive, that's a lot to bear. So like as a way to make it special, the Arkells were like, we could learn that normal song in 5 minutes. And I was like, sick. And we just got on stage and we went through normal one time. They knew it the very first time. They played it. They listened to the record once or twice. They knew the song. I'd get up to the play normal. Arkells would come out on stage, would play it as a full band. I would say goodnight. They would play the rest of their set right into Frank Turner.
That's a cool way to do it. Yeah. How big are the venues he's playing at that? Because that's in Europe, right? So
yeah, those were in the UK. They were big. I don't know. I mean, like 2,000 plus. I think in many cases. They were enormous. I mean, it was the biggest thing I'd ever done in my life.
Yeah, that's got to be a little mortifying at first.
And also, that's also why I was like, man, this would be so much sicker if my friends were here with me, also making just like a shit ton of racket. Like that would feel a lot less alienating than me being up here all by myself. And like, if you break a string, you're fucked. And I play super heavy because I don't know what I'm doing. So like, just slam on it because I play punk rock music. So like, if you break a string in front of all those people and you don't, I mean, I don't have a guitar aid or anything like that. I have to walk my chubby ass over to the other side of the stage, fix the string, and then come back up there and do it.
Right, and there goes 15 of your 25-minute set, right?
But luckily, the Frank Turner crew was really cool, and like they were right on it. Like if I broke a string, they gave me. I played Frank's guitar a couple times on that tour. It was kind of fun.
Oh, really? Yeah, I know Brian McPherson pretty well, and he has opened up like a Dropkick Murphys tour here, so probably same sort of venues. And it's a nerve-wracking thing when it's just you in front of a hockey arena full of people that aren't there for you. I mean, you're right; they might be nice and polite and listen, but they're not there for you. Dropkick fans are there for Dropkick Murphys.
Sure. And I learned that I opened up for Less Than Jake for a bit, and they did in Pittsburgh rather. And they did the Hello Rock View,
Yeah.
Mean Streak, album front to back, both records front to back in a night. And like all the old Less Than Jake fans were there to see Less Than Jake. And I was just the guy with the acoustic guitar who was in the way of them saying Less Than Jake. And I get it. Y'all are 40 plus and you haven't been to a DIY show since 1996. We get it. We get it.
Right.
But it was tough. Like the crowd was tough.
But at the same point,
hard to get through.
You're not a quiet singer-songwriter kind of guy. You're a punk rocker. You happen to play an acoustic guitar, but you're not a quiet sing a bunch of love ballads kind of guy with your guitar. You play your ass off.
I try to.
So that's got to help with a punk rock crowd, right? Whereas if you were to try to open like for Josh Ritter or somebody like that, who's more of a balladier singer-songwriter, you'd blow him off the stage.
I just there's a rudeness that comes along with punk rock. Like there's an intrinsic rudeness that comes along with it that you just have to take. Whenever you get a good heckle, you just take it. Someone doesn't, you get a bad review, I don't know. Punk rock has like a very underlying like rudeness to it. And they're like, okay, buddy. Yeah, I played one song and there was a guy in the crowd who was like, all right, wrap it up. Give us one more. And I thought it was like a really funny heckle. Like I was like, okay, you're a dickhead. Right. That's funny. I'll take it. Here's 5 more songs with no talk in between.
It's good for you, right? It builds character.
I like
it. You're right. But there's a lot of people in the scene who don't take themselves that seriously. So you can sort of have fun with that. You're not the one in the crowd.
I'm here to make you laugh. Hopefully for 30 minutes, I get to distract you from like your fucking phone and your job and like all the rest of the absolute muck that you have to deal with in your life. For 30 minutes, maybe you get to smile and think about something that's different than a way that you thought about it before. So like if the heckler is a part of that and I, give you a big raspberry or something, it's part of it.
That's a thing that really struck me a year ago, like I said, when I finally got the chance to see you play, is that I laughed a lot. Like the songs that you sing are serious, but there's this gallows humor to a lot of them that I found really refreshing, because you can take personal things and meaningful and sometimes hard to sing about things for yourself, but the way you use humor sort of cuts through and makes it accessible, I think, to everybody, or relatable to everybody. And that's a talent, my friend. That's not easily done.
Thanks.
But that's one of the things especially that I like about your music.
Thanks. I'm giving my dog biscuits. I have to keep her quiet. So I brought some biscuits up here and I'm just tossing her one every 5 minutes or so.
Is that Winnie Cooper? That's a great name.
In this house. We're emotional eaters. And if you want to keep me quiet, just give me a frozen Snickers bar or something like that. You'll keep me quiet for at least 10 minutes.
Yeah. One of the things I like to talk to people about that I don't feel like people who write punk rock songs get the credit for being songwriters, because it's not the folk punk Americana, da-da-da-da. I feel like the sort of art that is punk rock kind of gets pushed to the side. But to back on the thing about songwriting, like I think that you're a really good songwriter in the way that you, like I said, make personal things relatable to people. When did you realize you had that thing, that ability to connect with people by your words?
I don't know. That is a wonderful question. Thank you for asking it. I don't know if I have an answer for you.
That's okay.
I'll tell you what I like. I like the idea of what it feels like to see somebody's mind change.
Okay.
And I like the idea of what it looks like to see somebody get won over, or to see somebody hear something that they've always thought of but never had a way to say it. And I think, in my case specifically, I think most of life is pretty simple. And I think the answers that we're looking for are pretty simple. And I think whenever we say them in a simple way that's just straightforward and honest, I don't think most people are prepared for that type of delivery, even though
Mm.
there's nothing grandiose about it. It's just a very bare and raw honesty. I think if you're able to just talk about your feelings and just be vulnerable, I just think it's the greatest asset that we have. Even if you were wrong, even if you've
Mm.
done something, even if you've done something to hurt somebody, and even if you've done something maliciously to hurt somebody, and you've learned from that, or you've grown from that, or you feel remorse for that, or I'm I'm a full believer that being vulnerable is the greatest tool and the greatest thing that we have to squelch anything that we have, as far as like
Sure.
tension or beef or drama or any of it. That, like, if you have a gripe with me, I want to humbly listen to you, and I want to squash it. And I honestly think that kindness and vulnerability is the greatest tool that we have to really build bridges with each other, instead of like always just like putting up defense giant border walls in our heart to say that you're an asshole and you hurt my feelings and I don't have to forgive you, and I'm going to tell all my other friends that you're an asshole too, in hopes that you can feel as lonely as I felt when you hurt my feelings. And so my
Yeah.
only goal is to make you feel sad and to hurt you, not to reconcile the fact that, like, this is why you hurt me and I love you as a person, but like,
Right.
God damn, you know?
Yeah. When did you realize you could do that? When did you realize that you could connect with people that way through music? I mean, does this go back to high school, or is this like finding the Green Day tape?
I
Or
don't know. No, I didn't really do that. I mean, I didn't play in any good bands. I didn't. My bands were shitty. I played in like really aggro, like crust punk, hardcore D beat bands that we just wanted to sound like Discharge, which is sick because I like Discharge,
yeah,
but we don't need
right,
any more. There's already one band that sounds like Discharge. Give it a rest,
yeah,
you know?
right,
So like,
right,
I just wanted to do it because I wanted to yell and holler and like headbutt somebody. But now I'm like, I think in like 2009, I think is whenever I really took making songs a priority and learning the craft of a song and like figuring out how I wanted to do it. I never learned really. I never really was shown how to do it. I just kind of figured it out. I really just started off. I had like these poems that I thought were interesting to share, but I didn't like the idea of me sitting there and reading like poetry, reading sonnets
yeah,
to people.
yeah,
So I was like,
right,
who's really good at that is Johnny Cash. He might be the best at it, writing
yeah,
two chord songs and saying a poem. So that's how I
yeah,
just started off. And I was like, I can play G and C and D and E minor and A. I can play 5 chords, which are all
yeah,
the chords in every Johnny Cash song ever. And if I can
right.
figure out a way to go ahead and arrange those 5 chords in a way to make my poetry sound reasonable, I'm going to go for it. And that's just how I first started out, just like figuring out songs and making songs and trying to make that for myself.
Yeah, there is sort of this poetic also stream of consciousness thing in a lot of your songs where they don't necessarily go verse chorus bridge repeat,
Mm-hmm.
the classic formula, but there is some of that is on the last album and on this album too. There's a little bit more of that. Let's write a rock and roll song that is structured. Normal is a good one, for example. Did that take some work to go from taking a poem and then crafting it into songs? Like, this has to be a bridge, this is the first verse, this is the second verse, you know what I mean?
It happens different every time. Sometimes you have the words first, or you have the idea. My opinion about it changed greatly. I had a friend explain it to me about how you write a record. I told him I wanted to make a concept record. This Land Is Your Landfill and Normal were both concept records, and I wanted to make something that was conceptual about a character, and it had a theme, and it had a storyline. And he said, what you have to do is tell the story. If all of your information is within the confines of the frame, all you have to do is connect the dots for everybody. So what is the story that you want to tell? And I said, well, Normal's about a little kid who grew up, and he was no one understood him. And every day when he woke up, just like on the album cover, there's a cop on this side and there's the devil on this side. And they're both telling him to do the same thing. And the kid's always getting into trouble, and he feels lonely and scared until he finds this ragtag bunch of misfit fucking loser weirdos that nobody else wants to hang out with either. And they all have green hair, and they have a hole in their nose over here, and they all have a ripped up t-shirt and holes in their jeans. And they find this thing called punk rock, and they find a place to belong, and they find these other weirdos that made them a part of their family. And as they grow, they have this thing. And I said, well, how do I make this record? He's like, well, you've already written it. That's the story. Now all you have to do is write songs about the characters. You just have to write songs about the feelings, write songs about what was it like whenever this person felt this. And so all the work for it was already finished because it fit within the framework of it. I wasn't going to write a song about taking acid and going to Mars because that's not a part of the story. So I just had to give myself like very specific tasks. And it was an exercise in writing, which I actually stole from Rivers Cuomo from Weezer. If you ever have a chance to listen to his Song Exploder podcast, it'll blow your fucking mind. It's super sick. His writing process is so rigid. He wakes up and does like a quiet meditation, and he does a free write for like an hour every day. And every day he takes everything that he writes in his free write and he compartmentalizes it based on syllables. So if he's writing a song that ends in an A sound, that he has these lines that finish off with 9 syllables, da 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 a, da 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 a, and he has them in this long pages and pages and pages and pages of I wrote these lines and they rhyme like this. I wrote these lines and they rhyme like this. So whenever he's writing a song and he needs something about a girl named Rebecca, I have all this information about a girl named Rebecca, and this is all the content that I have about Rebecca, and you can just put it right into a song. So I kind of borrowed some of that type of songwriting process in doing both Normal and this Land Is Your Landfill.
That's such like a Harvard grad school guy thing to do, the way that he compartmentalized. That's amazing. Yeah. I have really mixed feelings about Weezer, and I always have, and it pisses people off when I say that, but because I know Weezer is a lot of people's band, and I get that, and I don't want to tread on that. But he's a fascinating character.
Oh, yeah.
Even if you don't like his music, he's a fascinating character.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that.
I will do. And I celebrate Weezer's entire catalog. Some people kick Weezer out of bed after the Green Album or after the Pinkerton, and I understand. Matt Sharp was a huge part of those first 2 albums, and to carry on without him seemed to be foolish. But there's a little bit of gold on every Weezer record that they've put out. Even if you like just the Blue Album and Pinkerton, there's plenty of like absolutely sensational material on Ratitude and on Hurley and, you know, all those later albums that people kind of like pass up. I think they're great. I think they're amazing pop songs, and they've really changed the way that I write songs.
Rivers is a great pop song writer. I will say that. The Blue Album and Pinkerton came out when I was in high school, and I didn't really dig them then. I had a lot of friends who did. They just weren't my cup of tea. And I saw them with Face to Face and No Doubt, which is a bizarre pairing of, which was an awesome tour. But that was all I needed. Like they've just never been my cup of tea. But he is a great pop songwriter.
I agree. I love him.
I don't know. I kind of lost track of time. I want to make sure.
Yeah, I'm enjoying just chatting with you.
That's me too. Oh, we got plenty of time. I want to make sure we're able to go to Sal's birthday party.
Yeah, of course.
One of the things that you're doing to stay busy during quarantine or whatever we're calling it is these shows periodically and sending out flyers, which I think this is such a cool idea because show flyers are an art form. And so I love the way that you do these. So where did the idea to do these regular shows with your buds and send out flyers and stuff come from? That's
I
cool.
wanted to, so I wanted to create an event that was free, that everybody could come to, that would kill the boredom. And I miss playing shows with my friends, and I miss tour. And there are so many of my friends that I was supposed to see on these last two tours with Harley Poe and with Good Riddance and Death by
Yeah.
Stereo and Such Gold. And we're finishing last night. Tonight was supposed to be, we were supposed to come home today, play a show in Hamilton, Ontario at the Casbah tonight. And then we were going to drive home to Pittsburgh for 2 weeks and then go to Europe and tour Europe. So like,
Oh, wow.
I was sad that we had to cancel all this thing. So I wanted to come up with like a way that we could do something that was engaging. And then I was like, how could we make it special and make like a collector's item thing that people that don't have a lot of money can afford and they can participate in, and you could donate $1 to the show if you want to donate $1 to it, or you can donate any amount of money that you want to. And you can get something in the mail. We'll buy some stamps. We'll help out the USPS because they're in desperate need of some funds.
Because they need it. Right.
We'll buy some stamps. We'll get some things in the mail. People are bored all day. They get something in the mail that's more than just a grocery store ad. And they're like, oh, I remember when I was in the middle of quarantine and there wasn't dick to do. These idiots played a show on the internet. And you're like, oh, cool. You know, it's a thing to do. And I was like, I love to make show posters. I love to do it. I mean, look around my, this is my bedroom. I mean, they're on every,
Yeah.
every square inch of my office here, my little room here is just covered with them. I love to make them. And like, I really miss it not being able to make them for going out on tour and playing shows. So I was like, well, let's just make real flyers for these digital shows. And if people want to get one in the mail, they can donate to the show. And the response has been, overwhelming. And
yeah.
I played a show with Joe Jack Talcum from the Dead Milkmen, and now we're buddies on the internet. Oh! It's the fucking coolest thing of all time. Joe from the Dead Milkmen, my friend on the internet. That's so sick to me.
How did that one come about?
Because we did these online shows. We just did it like, hey, you're stuck in Philly and I'm stuck in Pittsburgh. Are you free at 8:30? Yeah, let's do it. This is sick.
So did you know him before?
No, him, and Mikey Erg. I mean, I've known Mikey Erg forever, but me, him, and Mikey Erg were just like, this sounds like a sick bill that would be sick in real life. Let's just do it on the internet instead. And then once we get on the internet, we have like a little group chat thing, and I was like, when we're allowed out in real life, can we do this as a tour? And they were both like, yeah, that would be so fun. So
that would be awesome.
That's something to look forward to in the future.
Right. That was a fun one. Do you find yourself writing during this time, or is it kind of overwhelming because of everything that's going on? Do you need to like pull back and look at this 6 months down the road?
I think, I mean, art, hopefully when you make art, whether you're making digital art or you're making physical art or you're writing poems or you're, writing songs or whatever type of art that you're making, hopefully it's an honest reflection of your where you are currently, and it's an honest representation of how you feel or what you see or what you'd like to say. And I think if you're just being honest with your feelings when you're stuck inside your house, that's the art that you're supposed to make there at that moment. Those are the songs you're supposed to sing. And I had a few songs coming into quarantine that I had parts to that we're getting as a band, we're getting the Spire app, and it's like
I don't know.
So it's like I have my acoustic guitar and I play my part and I sing into the microphone, and now Megan has my guitar part and my vocal part, and she puts her bass on my track, sends it to Matt. Matt lays on his vocal part, puts on his guitar, sends it to Maura. But we don't have to wait. You can work on that part while everybody else is working on their part too.
Wow.
And it's just right there, right onto your phone, and it's like a group share. Obviously, it's not mixed, and obviously, it's not in any way to show anybody, but just to go ahead and get your ideas down so that you can book digital studio time, which is a thing now.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That is not my world. So I learn more. I learn more and more just by watching guys like you do stuff like this than I ever have. So that's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else to do. I'm 37 years old. I just make punk rock music. I don't know what else I would do. So I'm just going to try and keep making it. I'm working on another book. I'll have another book out hopefully by the end of the year. I've been writing a whole bunch for that. Writing songs, making a ton of art. I'm going to do an art camp this summer in July and August. I haven't announced it yet, but I've just talked to people that are on the mailing list. It's called Art Punk DIY School, and it's going to be an intentional art community that gathers on Sundays from 3 to 5, and we work on writing prompts and poetry and songwriting and art layout and zine layout. And at the end of the program, we're all going to gather the art that we did over the 8 weeks of the class, and we're going to collectively publish a zine that'll go to benefit a local organization at the end of the term. And we're going to do 2 of them a year, one in the fall and one in the spring, or one in the summer and one in the winter.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
And just like it, I think it's not going to be for everybody. The class has to be small so we can pay attention and we can really get it in. So, for the people who want to have a creative experience and want to be pushed in honing in on the thing that they want to create, I just want to try and be a fertile ground for people who want to be creative and want to have good peer review and want to be pushed and challenged to create art and to do so intentionally. So I've always wanted to be a part of something like that, and I don't know that it exists. So I figured I'd just give it a try, and we'll just create it.
To do it yourself. Yeah, you do everything else yourself.
Yeah, right.
That's awesome. That's a great idea.
Thanks.
This was really cool. I'm glad we talked. I appreciate you coming on to the show like this. Oh, and I forgot to tell you that Brian Venable says hi. I mentioned to Brian Venable.
I've been watching
He'll be on
stories. He's out there in the tent in the front yard reading Black Beauty or, whatever he's reading this week. I love it.
We are reading The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov this week. It's fascinating. Brian's one of my favorite people too. And he'll be on this tomorrow night. So when I told him that you were going to be on, he said, "Oh, I don't know if I can watch it, but tell Derek I said hi. That guy's awesome." So
tell Brian I said hello and that I love him, and that I think my garden's going to kick his garden's ass this year. You can tell him that I said that because I got
his garden. His garden looks pretty good.
I just put in a 28 by 28 foot bed, a big motherfucker. It's we're gonna be able to feed half of Pittsburgh.
His goal is to be self-sufficient.
I know.
I think by this time he's got.
It's so encouraging to talk to Brian because he's like, he's me, but with more money and like 15 years in the future.
Yeah, right. Oh, you know what? That's actually a really good comparison. That's a really good comparison.
Our political ideas are pretty congruent. We like a lot of the same music. We both like to take mind-altering substances and make art. We both like to do weird shit. We both love to be self-sustaining. He has a lot more tattoos than me too. But tell Brian that I love him and I miss him. And damn it, we have to get back on another Lucero tour too. That would be sick.
I know. That would be sick. I know. Thanks for doing this. I'll see you at Sal's birthday party. Be well. Yeah, be well. I'm glad you're here.
Yourself and others.
Thank you. Bye.
Come on.